Fluent and Chill. I'm anthonyk from Sports Fluent, and I'm here with my man Jay Dove from Chilltown Hoops. Jay, the last couple of weeks, we went over the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, and where we thought the teams would kind of play out over the next season based on the moves that they've made so far. Mm-hmm. Barring any, major trades, like last year we saw Harden go to the Nets after the season had started. So we can't predict any of those things. So we're assuming it is how it is. Now, I still think, let me put this out there, I still think Ben Simmons and possibly Damian Lillard might be on the move, but let's assume that they stay where they are. So I'm going to go through the teams in each conference. I'm going to tell you which were the teams that were in the playoffs, and we're going to try to whittle that down to 10 teams that we think have a shot to make the NBA final, and what needs to go right for them to make it. And hey, if this doesn't go right, if it goes wrong, this is why they won't make it. So let's start in the East because we're both in the East. So here's the standings from last season. So it was Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, New York, Atlanta, Miami, Boston, Chicago. Okay, those are the 8. Or sorry, I bumped up Chicago. I should say I bumped up Chicago.
Washington.
Yeah, well, it was Washington, and I've already bumped them up because I don't think – so we're going to start with those 8. I've eliminated, and if you disagree with this, I've eliminated from title contention Washington, Indiana, Charlotte, I hate to say it, Toronto, Cleveland, Orlando, and Detroit. Is that fair that those are out?
Yes.
Or do you think okay?
Yeah, that's fair.
So now we got 8. So I'm going to take it a step further, and again, disagree with me if you want or if you need to. I've also eliminated New York and Atlanta.
I don't think that window is closed for Atlanta yet. From what I saw them do last year, I'm not 100% certain that window is closed. That I think they're going to come back this season. I think they're going to be healthy because health is the most important thing.
For sure.
I think Trey's going to come back better. I think that unit that they have, they've been there and they know how close they were. I still don't think that they could beat I don't think that they would have beaten Milwaukee, but I think that they have a shot. So I'm not going to completely eliminate Atlanta because they might avoid Milwaukee and they might run up on matchups are everything.
Okay,
I've always felt like that in the NBA. Matchups are everything, and if you can avoid some teams and let this team deal with that team, and then you have to deal with this team, that's great on your part. I mean, the prime example would be the Houston Rockets. I always bring up the Houston Rockets in the 1993-94 season. The Houston Rockets at that point had been eliminated 3 times in the last, I think, 7 years by the Seattle Supersonics. And they had the luxury of having Denver bounce Seattle in round 1 because that Seattle team won 62 games that year. And I think they would have beat Houston again. So matchups are everything. So I'm not ready to completely 86 Atlanta. If they could avoid, if they could get a good matchup and go on a run again, because I honestly thought that they had a really good shot at winning it. So I'm not ready to throw Atlanta out yet.
So let me put this. You're famous. I'm going to steal one of your lines here because you're famous for you have Kobe Bryant at number 11. And when people ask you why, you always give them one of these. Who you pulling out from your 10? So I'm going to ask you, if Atlanta's in, because we got to whittle it down to 10, and I'm assuming it's 5 per conference. It might not balance that way, but who you pulling out? Philadelphia? Brooklyn? Because this is who's left. Milwaukee? Miami? Boston? Or Chicago?
Chicago's out. That's number 1. Because
you think Chicago's new team with DeRozan, Ball, Vucevic, Levine, we just don't know what they are because we haven't seen them play together, or you don't think they have enough talent to compete in the East?
Well, I don't know who they are. I haven't seen them guard. I know that they're buckets. Okay, I know that DeMar DeRozan is 22 a night on a Tuesday. Pencil him in for 22. I don't care where he is, whether he's in San Antonio or he's in New York. Pencil him in for 22 a night. So I already know that we're getting that from him. The question is can you guys slow teams down? Atlanta has proven in the playoffs when they're healthy, they can guard, they can rebound, they can defend in transition, they can make open shots with the best of them. Now, being good isn't good enough, Tom. You need some things to go your way. So Milwaukee proved that with being healthy and staying healthy. You know, Giannis ended up getting hurt, but it wasn't nearly as bad as we thought. I thought he was done for the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah.
But if you could stay healthy, that's one thing that can absolutely go your way. However, when you got teams like Atlanta, you got teams like the Knicks, you got teams like Miami, we do a lot of the same things. So what's the difference that's going to push us, that's going to push Atlanta past the rest of these teams? Well, Atlanta got a dynamic point guard who's a distributor and who's a passer. I think he's an elite player. Kyle Lowry is on his way out. I don't think he has that much time left. I think Kyle Lowry probably got about 3 more years left at this level. That Miami team, I think they're going to be better, but I'm not ready to put them past Atlanta yet. I'm not ready to put them past Atlanta yet.
So let's start with the ones we agree on. We agree Milwaukee's in the conversation. Do we agree the Nets, obviously if healthy, are in the conversation? You've convinced me on Atlanta, so I'm gonna put them in the conversation. Is New York out? Are we agreed that New York is out? Probably
I think
for title contention.
better, but I think New York gets better, but they're not in the conversation of winning it. No.
Okay. So we come down to these. We've got 2 spots left, and we've got Philadelphia. We've already said you feel no to Chicago. I'm not going to argue with you on Chicago because Chicago, to me, I feel like they're going to be a nice team. But you're right. I don't know. Will Ball be a good enough outside threat to allow DeRozan to do what he needs to do because he's a mid-range player? And will that give enough spacing for Vucevic to do what he does inside, outside? And then, again, give Levine his driving lanes, who's an underrated shooter, I think, too. So maybe he's maybe, if I can say this, he's the X factor in the spacing of that team. Correct. So we'll leave Chicago out for now. So we got 2 spots, Philadelphia, Miami, Boston.
I still think that Boston is – I want to put them in it because they've been to the East Finals twice in the last, 4 years? And what they have as a unit, I still think they're a year away. I do. I'm not ready to put them in. Miami's got a vet unit. So with the vet unit that Miami has, I'll put them in with Atlanta. Okay. I love Boston, and Jason Tatum is my favorite player under 25. But I still think that they're a year away. I don't think they're ready yet.
Okay. So let's start there then. So we got these are our 5. We have Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Atlanta, Miami. You've already talked about Atlanta. We already know what they need to do, right? They need to stay healthy. Trae Young needs to be the leader of that team. A couple of the young guys need to step up. Okay, you're chomping at the bit. Go.
Well, Tom, the thing I'm thinking about how Atlanta dealt with Philadelphia. And I know I'm high on Embiid, and I know I'm high on what they're doing with Doc Rivers and Tobias Harris, but they've proven to me with Ben Simmons that they will go to pieces. So I may have to take Philadelphia out and put Boston in. Even though I'm not sure that Boston, I still feel something in me tells me that they're a year away. However,
okay, so let's do it this way. We'll just go. We'll. Hey, we said 10. It's our show. We could do 12. There's no one telling us not to do 12. So let's start with Philly. So for Philly to make a playoff push, you need Embiid to stay healthy, obviously. And for me, I think it really the linchpin, if they don't make a trade, it's Ben Simmons. Can he shoot even a little bit? And then they have that's their shot, right? If they can get offense, and when I say offense, I don't mean driving and dunking or driving and dishing it off when you should have dunked, not taking a shot at Ben, but right, if they can get outside shooting, is there anything else that would stop them from making a legit shot at the title?
That's Ben Simmons is the difference. They replaced Dwight Howard with Andre Drummond, so they've shored up that backup center spot. The difference with them is Ben Simmons. If he is mentally correct and he can knock down a mid-range jump shot regularly, because his game outside of that is unquestionable. He's one of the better defensive guards in the game. He's one of the best defensive backcourt players in the game. He's one of the best distributors in the game. The question is, offensively, can he put it together mentally? Now, if he can do that, I mean, they did. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, they did finish with the number 1 seed in the East.
They sure did, and that was with Embiid. He didn't miss a lot, but with Embiid missing some time too, right? I think he missed enough time that he lost what should have been his MVP.
Cost him the league MVP.
Right?
He missed almost a month. Cost him league MVP.
I don't think it was enough to cost him it, but that's probably a conversation for another day. Okay, so we agree it's Ben Simmons. The Nets. Is it as simple as saying health?
Yes.
Like if they're healthy, they've got a shot, right?
Not just health. I've said this to you before, Tone, and I can't reiterate it enough. I know who KD is. I know who Irv is. And I know who James Harden is. He's shown me who he is.
But do you?
Yes.
But do you? Because
yes.
I was with you to a point because I thought I knew who James Harden was. And when he went to Brooklyn, I said, this thing is a powder keg. And I gave them a month before we started hearing, the rumors and the tweets and this guy hates that guy and these two are button heads in practice. And, before we saw that, James Harden really surprised me by saying, you know what they need from me on this team is for me to kind of step back, pardon the pun, and be more of a distributor and run this offense. And when they were all healthy and he did that and he took that role on, they looked good. So that's why I know what you're saying. Like when I see him in the playoffs, this is what he's done. But I feel like those Houston teams, look, he was set up to play a certain way, and he did it, and he did it very well. I don't know if I'm the minority or the masses when I say I knew that wasn't a style of play because I saw it in Phoenix with D'Antoni. That's not a playoff winning basketball. It wins a lot of regular season games. It's not playoff basketball. So that's why I say I knew who he was in Houston. He surprised me in Brooklyn. And so that's why I'm like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm kind of like, well, can he do it for a whole season and a whole playoff run? I don't know. But if he can, that's where I kind of differ from him because I'm like, I know what you're saying, but
here's the problem I'm having, Tone. The issue that I'm having is what year are we in with James Harden? We're in year 13. This is who he is. We're not going to now. It sounded good initially with Kyrie Irving saying you're going to play the point guard, I'm going to play the shooting guard. Of course, that sounds good, and the reason why that sounds good is because this guy is getting on a championship caliber unit, especially coming from Houston, who he had made it clear we're not a very good team. So I'm going to do everything that I can for this thing to work because I have to prove that I made the right decision. However, you still are who you are. And we saw him break down. We saw who and we've seen this over the course of years with him. Nobody has ever questioned James Harden as a player and what he could do. But when we go deep into the playoffs, around this time, at this juncture of his career, we've seen him break down. Not just physically, we've seen his game break down. And until he can show me that he can sustain that, this is who he is. So I know who Irv is, I know who KD is, and I know who James Harden is.
All right. As I mentioned, unless there was anything you wanted to add about Atlanta, I think we've covered Atlanta and what they need to do and what they got. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that veteran Miami team. It's an interesting one because I know that Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler, they're tight. But interestingly enough, he was also very tight with Goran Dragic. Mm-hmm. So I wonder how that changes up the chemistry because he's bringing in another guy he likes, but how does it affect the rest of the team? That being said, I also understand that is Kyle Lowry a huge upgrade from Goran Dragic? That's debatable. I think he's an upgrade. Is he a big upgrade play wise? Again, debatable. But he's been to the mountaintop, right? He knows what it takes to win. He's that guy that does all the things that don't show up on a stat sheet. So I think between him, Butler, and Bam, they've re-signed their other guys. What needs to go? Listen, I think just to not be redundant, health. We know health. Let's put the health aside because for every team they need to be healthy. What needs to go right for them to have a legitimate shot at showing that the bubble year wasn't a fluke?
To be honest with you, Tone, as much as I like them and I'm putting them back in the mix, I'd love for them to trade 4 or 5, man, because I'd like to move Bam to the 4. I think that he would be so much better offensively for them if he played the 4. Because Bam, who Bam reminds me of, and I mean, again, I'm an older guy. Bam looks to me like a more athletic version of Buck Williams. when he was with the Nets. That's who Bam reminds me of. And I think that he could be a 20-10 guy if he plays the 4 the way that they had that offense. And I think that they need to feature him more. They shoot the long ball a lot. And what Miami does, they run that same offense that Golden State runs. When I was being down here, I've heard a lot of Miami being the Golden State of the Eastern Conference because, they move the basketball and you got a lot of movement off the ball. If they could feature Bam more, that would give him more confidence and it would expand his game. And the way that works is moving him to the 4. You're going to get what you're going to get at a Buckets. Yeah. You're going to get what you're going to get at a Duncan. He's your long ball shooter. I think that if they could trade for a 5-man who could just be you don't got to be Rudy Gobert good. You don't have to be Cat good or anything like that. If you could be like Robert Williams from the Celtics good, where I got a rim protector, I got a rebounder, and all Bam can concentrate on is getting buckets and being a defender that he is. I think that pushes them over the top. Yeah,
take that kind of shot blocking, rebounding pressure off of him because he feels he's got to do it all when it comes to that, and it takes away from his offensive game. All right, so everything needs to go right. You think there may be a piece away though from really making a legit run? Okay. Mm-hmm. You noticed I skipped one team because I wanted to save them for the end because they're the defending champs. They got the belt. They basically got the same team. Again, health and just stay hungry.
Well, I don't know if it's stay hungry because I think they're going to be right back in the middle of it. Tone, I still don't like losing PJ Brown to the Miami Heat. PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
I still don't like. I don't mind losing him. We can't lose him to them. We could lose PJ to Toronto. We could lose PJ to New Orleans. We can't lose PJ to the Miami Heat because that's going to come back and bite us.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem. Losing Brian Forbes, he went back to San Antonio. But I think that isn't a problem because you get DiVincenzo back and you still got Connaughton. So I don't think that's a problem. I think that Milwaukee's going to be right back in the middle of it as long as they stay healthy. I love Middleton. I love Giannis. I love their dirty work guy in Portis. I think he steps into that role that Tucker had not just on the perimeter, because Portis can defend on the perimeter, but he also can defend in the post too. He's their energy guy. And with Drew Holiday being, in my opinion, the best perimeter defender in the game, I think that Milwaukee is the team to beat in the Eastern Conference.
So you think Portis can take on that added responsibility, that PJ Tucker, that kind of, like you said, that dirty work type of role for them?
I do.
So losing Tucker, obviously you're losing it to another one of the top 5-6 teams. So that's the issue. I get that, but losing him, you don't think takes away too much from their repeat chances?
I don't think it takes away that much. I just don't like them losing to Miami.
Yeah.
That's my issue more than anything.
Okay. We both have the Bucks, coming out of the East again?
I do.
Okay. Now it gets tough because now we're going to flip over to the West.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to start at the bottom this time and make it easy. Again, argue with me if you feel I've got Houston out, OKC out, Minnesota out, Sacramento out, New Orleans, and San Antonio out of title contention. So any one of those teams you think makes a leap into that conversation?
None.
Okay.
Absolutely none of those teams. No.
So now let's start. Utah we're going to go through where they finished last year. So it was Utah, Phoenix, Denver, Clippers, the Mavs, Portland, Lakers, Memphis, and Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
So you got 9 teams there. We need to start eliminating them.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Memphis is out.
Memphis is out.
For me, I'm going to get a lot of hate because I spent a lot of time there. Portland is out.
To be honest with you, Tone, and I don't care. I wouldn't be surprised if Portland didn't make the playoffs. That wouldn't surprise me if they didn't make the playoffs this year.
I have them in the play-in because I have them dropping from 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're left with 7 teams: Utah, Phoenix, Denver, the Clippers, the Mavs, the Lakers, Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone? I have 2 more that I think are out. I know I'm going to get a lot of slack for this one. I think Phoenix is out. I think they missed their window.
Mm-hmm.
Are you with me on that one? Or
I'm not ready to say Phoenix is out, Tone, but I think the road's going to be harder for them because we're talking about a team that they bring virtually everybody back with Chris Paul, and I think Ayton's going to get better this season. I think Book is who he is, and I think that it's just now a level of sustainability with him and just hanging on to that. All right, so with that being said, all these teams are coming back healthy. So the Lakers are coming back healthy.
And stronger.
Right.
And stronger.
The Nuggets are coming back healthy. The Clippers aren't, but I think the road's going to be harder for Phoenix. I'm not counting them out. I just think that the road's going to be a lot more difficult for them this season than it was last year.
Now you had you were saying that you think Kawhi isn't going to play this season. So do we want to go with he's not playing this season? We take because if he's not playing, the Clippers are out of the conversation, are they not?
They're done.
Okay, so let's do that to make it easier. So now we got because I'm trying to whittle Dallas. Here's a team that needs another piece, right? And not just a piece; they need another star. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, they're out, and I see you doing that. So you're with me. Okay, so we've got it whittled down. So we got Utah. We'll talk about Phoenix, Denver, the Lakers, and I can't believe Golden State. So let's start with Golden State because they're the one that, man, they got the most question marks. Well, although they probably have a little bit older, but a talented starting 5.
I don't know if I'm ready to put Golden State in that conversation of them winning it, and the reason why is because they got a lot of holes.
Yeah,
they got a lot of holes. Word is Clay won't be back until December, which I'm confused what the story is with that. He was already out for the entire season, and now he's going to miss
2.
2 seasons, and now he's going to miss another 2 months. So I don't know what the story.
He may be done, right?
I don't know if he's done.
You don't think he's done?
I'm not ready to say he's done yet because I still need to see him in game action, and I need to see him consistently. I'm not just going to go off for 1 or 2 games when I see him.
Let me ask you. I'm going to jump in and ask you a question on Clay then because I know you're a basketball historian. Have you ever seen a player miss 2.5 seasons and come back anywhere near what they were before?
The only guy that I could think of it was close to that. It wasn't 2.5. It wasn't that long, but Bernard King missed some time, and Bernard came back. He wasn't what he was. He could still score it with the best of them, but he wasn't what he was. He wasn't close to what he was. I mean, Dominique missed a year when he tore up his Achilles, and he came back super sharp, but he didn't miss 2 seasons. No.
No, and by the time he comes back, it'll be 2.5 seasons.
Right, 2.5. So I'm not. I think Golden State is out of that conversation of winning it. I don't think that they're in it. But I do think that they're going to be competitive.
Yeah,
I need to see what Clay is, and I need to see what Clay is constantly. I'm not just going off 1 or 2 games, Tone. I want to see what Clay is, and does he progress? Because if he's the same guy that he was 2 years ago, I think they're right back in the middle of the Western Conference and being competitive. If he's not, they're out.
Okay, we're going to start with what I call the enigma wrapped in a conundrum that is the Utah Jazz. What needs to happen for them?
I think they got to. I think the same thing that happened for Milwaukee. I think that they need some luck, man, because I personally think they got all the pieces. I think that they have all the pieces to win it. I think that they need some luck. They need some things to go their way. Getting with that Clipper team was a bad matchup for them. Rewind the clock back to 2007 when the Dallas Mavericks went over 60-something games, and they got to run up on the Golden State Warriors in the first round of the playoffs. That was a terrible matchup for them. If they don't see Golden State, I think Dallas is back in the finals in 2007. That was a terrible matchup for them. The Jazz, they run into the Clippers. That's a terrible matchup for them with Leonard. I think that if they don't run into the Clippers, I think they beat Phoenix. And with the Lakers being who they were, and the Lakers being out, I think they beat Denver. I absolutely think that they beat them. So they need the Jazz. I think they have all the pieces with Donovan being who he is. Mike Conley needs to stay healthy. Rudy being the rim protector that he is. O'Neal and Ingles being the role players and Clarkson. I think they have all the pieces. Now they just need some things to go their way.
If I didn't tell, if I didn't tell you the name of a team, and I just said I've put a team together, I've got a gritty, defensive, veteran point guard. Again, if healthy, I've got a scorer. I've got a defensive player of the year candidate every year that he plays, a rim protector, a big man, a center. I've got outside shooting, and I've got a healthy bench. And they were the number 1 seed. Would you ever, if you didn't know it was the Jazz, would you ever doubt me saying, yeah, they have a legit shot at the title? And yet, because it's the Jazz, it's a question mark.
If you didn't say that they had a legit shot at the title, I'd be thinking, what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
What are you talking about?
So it's. I think you're right. I think we forget because we live in this era of, hey, just throw a bunch of talent together and they'll figure it out. Every title in every sport requires talent, a system, role players playing and knowing their role, and luck. We always forget about that ball bouncing, those 50-50 balls, right? Can you make them 51-49? Because if it bounces your way, if another team has an injury here or is a little hobbled there or has an off night, all of those things have to work in your favor. And, I don't want to, we're going to talk about football on Friday, but I'm working on a project right now because someone asked me, and it's a tough question, make me an argument why Tom Brady isn't the GOAT. And so I'm going through and I'm looking for those, hey, the tuck rule, the last second field goals, that, you have to find those little things that if they go the other way, we're not talking about these guys. So for Utah, I think they just keep doing what you're doing and hope you get those breaks. Make sure you get those 50-50 balls. Make sure that you're the grindiest, the hardest working team. Don't get outworked, right? Because that's another thing we see is talented teams just coasting. Listen, in today's NBA, you can't coast. You will get,
and that's not Utah. Utah is
eat your
not
lunch. No, I know they're not. I'm just saying, you don't work though. Someone's eating your lunch. So
yes, they are.
So Phoenix, we talked about, they need to stay healthy. Ayton has to take a step up. I think Booker has to play better in the playoffs. Not better, more consistent, right? I'll give up a 50-point game and then a 10-point game if he gave me 20-30s. Because I think with him it's that consistency and his efficiency. Right. But yeah, you're right. I think they're good enough talent-wise.
Right.
So we go to the third one. So we're going to talk about Denver. Denver has as much talent as anybody. They've got the reigning MVP, whether you agree with the selection or not. Jamal Murray, we're assuming is going to be back and healthy. Mm-hmm. What is it? Just, hey, they've matured a year and now they know what the playoff grind is like? Is there anything else that needs to happen for them?
Well, MPJ needs to take that jump, and I'd like to see him become more of a defender. I'd like to see him get stronger. I'd like to see more expansion in his offensive game. I'd like to see Bol in the lineup more, because that Denver team, they got a multitude of talent, right? And Malone's a great coach, I think. Losing Murray, we're talking about a team that was in the West Finals the year before. And if Murray is healthy, I know Phoenix swept them right out the playoffs. So they were clearly better. But they're another team like Utah where I think they got all the pieces too. I think that MPJ, I think that he needs to take – I look at him like I look at RJ Barrett. You can't come back next season the same dude you were. You can't. Right. You have to be better than what we have to see improvement from you in order for us to get better. And if we don't, then we got to start looking in another direction. So he's got to come back better. I think Joker is who he is. I think Will Barton, I think the talent level that they have, I think it's all there. I think that they just got to put it together and put it together on a consistent basis. And I think that Denver is I don't know when Murray's coming back. I think Murray will be back. I think he'll be back on open. If he's not back on opening night, he'll be back before Christmas. If he's sharp and he's not playing tentatively, I wouldn't be surprised if Denver was right back in the West Finals again. That wouldn't surprise me.
You're not gonna get an argument from me because I think that's what hurt them last year. I think if Murray doesn't get hurt, we're probably having a different conversation this year.
We are.
So the last one, this is my favorite one. Los Angeles Lakers made a lot of moves. You're bringing, again, I'm going to say it for the fourth time in this conversation, assuming healthy, right? You're bringing back LeBron, obviously AD, which was enough, right? I think they realized they didn't have enough in a way of kind of backup centers. They brought back Dwight. They add, what's that guy's name? I think he gets a couple of triple doubles here and there. Russell something, Westbrook, I believe, right? They bring in another superstar, but then they also get like Nunn, Carmelo, like they bring in a lot of
Monk, Ellington,
just so many pieces. Look, for me, and I'm not just saying this because of my fandom, I think if they're healthy, they run away with this thing, right? Am I just delusional because I'm a Laker fan?
No, you're not delusional. And I'll start the conversation with Russell Westbrook is in Los Angeles, and this is business. That's all this is. Russ is looking at James, and he's getting on James to make sure that James stays on him. James, I'm here to win. I'm not here to party. I'm not here to hang out. I'm not here for business deals. I've done that already. I'm here because I've seen parades on Figueroa Boulevard, and I want to be a part of that. And the only way for that to happen is I need to find out exactly what I need to do in order for this to work. And in order for this thing to work, Russ got to fall in line. And I think he will. I think Russ is locked in. Whatever they need him to do, this isn't a situation with him being one of those players who I'm still trying to get my stats or my ego is in the way. No, I don't think that at all with Russ. I think Russ is completely locked into what they're doing. You tell me what I need to do, and I'll do it. You got your long ball shooters in Ellington, Monk, and Nunn. I think that's going to be great with them stretching the D and spacing the floor. And we can't forget the most important element here, which is our primary ball handler in James. He had a whole summer to heal up and to come back healthy. And with him ready and with Anthony Davis ready, I think that they're the favorites in the Western Conference.
When you make as many NBA finals as LeBron James was making in a row, playing the Olympics, doing all those things, your body, it takes a toll on your body. Last season, we know James was very vocal about this shortened off season. He's got, not that he was making an excuse, but he's got no excuse now, right? I hope that he's rested and ready to play. I think same with AD, because AD's hearing, people chirping that, always hurt, always. I hope he puts that chip on his. I love players with chips on their shoulder. I hope he puts that chip on his shoulder and says, "Hey, I'm going to show these guys that I can be healthy."
Mm-hmm.
In terms of Russ also hears this. We've created a narrative that if you don't win a chip, your career isn't, it's good. But if you don't get that ring, it don't mean a thing. Right. I stole that. I believe that was LeBron's line too. So Russ knows he's going to come in with I need to do that. Then you get a guy like Carmelo living in the shadows, right? Being drafted, being skipped over for Darko. Like that should be a big enough chip. But living in the shadow of LeBron, let's be honest, he was the best player in college. And he knows I need to be that veteran leader that plays my role and shows these other guys what to do because he needs his ring too. These guys understand maybe more than any other generation their legacy. Right. To that end. There's another guy, I spoke about him before, but LeBron. Mm-hmm. He knows his legacy. He knows that if he now with this team, if he doesn't take them to the finals, he thought he was getting hate before. If they don't win the final, he's going to get or if they go to the finals and lose. Not for people he cares about, not for people, but I feel like he knows what's going on. He knows that narrative, and it's important to him, which is okay. And then my last point, I'll let
It's a
you get to.
lose-lose situation with him, though, Tone. Because if he
No, I
takes
know.
them to the
If he
finals
takes
and
them
they
and
win
wins,
it,
they're gonna say, "Oh,
with the
super team." Yeah,
If he loses, how could you lose with these guys? And so it's a
yeah.
lose-lose
Well,
situation with him.
for me, if I take, I don't believe in super teams, but if I take a super team and win, I'll deal with that. I don't want to take them and lose. Right? That I'd rather have the win because at the end of the day, I can look myself in the mirror, I can look at that ring and shrug my shoulders. If I lose, it's going to bother me.
Mm-hmm.
So my more point is that he's aware of his legacy, so he's going to be motivated to do this. And then the last piece is these other guys, the guys you mentioned, the Nuns and the Ellingtons, and who signed like these minimum deals. They didn't sign those deals because they just wanted to, enjoy the palm trees and the beach. They signed those deals because, one, winning is important. We undervalue winning, which I can't understand. Winning's important. Getting a ring is important. And let's be honest, those guys are young enough that if they get that ring in LA, guess what happens next year? They can either re-sign with the Lakers if they feel they're going to run it back, or they get their payday. They get their payday. And listen, I'm all for it. Look, it's a capitalistic country. If someone tells me no player is worth $30 million, listen, every player that can get $30 million is worth $30 million because you're worth what someone will pay you.
And getting it too.
And
I'm not saying no to. And I'm not saying no to.
So they know. They're coming in motivated to say, hey, I need to play my role. I need to do what's necessary to win above my ego because it's going to equal a title and a payday at the end of the day. And those leaders, Carmelo and LeBron, et cetera, are going to tell them, hey, you came here for a reason.
Yeah.
If you're doing something wrong, stop doing that. You came for a reason.
Right.
And so I just think all the pieces are just there together. Again, makes me happy. But even if I wasn't a Laker fan, I'd probably be maybe not as enthusiastic, but I'd be saying the same thing: is that they've got the makeup of a team that could like run away with. We'll talk about 10 years from now is wow, that team was so good, and I hope that's a conversation.
Yeah.
On that note, that's the end. So we've got I guess I should ask the question. So we got the Bucks coming out of the East. I guess I didn't ask. I've obviously got the Lakers coming out of the West. Who you got?
If the Lakers are in the finals, I got the Lakers winning the NBA championship.
I'm a happy man, and we're not even touched the preseason yet. So Lakers and Bucks, Lakers in 6. I was just gonna say, I'm gonna throw it out there. Lakers in 6.
That's what I got.
So that's it for this week on Fluent and Chill basketball.
Yeah.
On Friday, we're gonna do this. Who are the 10 legit NFL teams that have a chance at a Super Bowl? And I think it's going to get a little bit messy because I know we disagree on some teams. So join us for that. You can find it on Chilltown Hoops on YouTube, Sports Fluent on YouTube, and you can find it on sportsfluent.com. Till next week.
Take it light. Take it.